So we're getting close to the end of things here. Slowly closing in on it. You know, initially I was concerned about this being sort of halfway between here and there. It's not really, but what it mostly is something sitting on a plinth, on a pedestal, that even if I put some light on it and make it disappear somewhat, I think it's still going to be too strong. We kind of have this oh, you know, leading right to this point. And I do not want a tree trunk right in the middle of that. I may just leave this branch sticking out of the bush, or maybe just a short stump, but this is too important as it sits. So what I've done so far, well, I've just colored in these little stumps here. This had two, I got rid of one. You know, just a little, again, this and this, they're not catching much light. They are ultramarine blue and raw umber, and just, you know, blip, a little blip, blip, you know, just a couple of strokes, and you have to make the blip noise, because if you don't make the blip noise, it goes, and that's just irritating. So also I took some of these colors, you know, general tones, and I've laid a little bit in here just to warm this up, help to make this purple area more in tune with the rest of the painting, and I think that helped. Also down here I had a very brown triangle, and it felt separated from this too much, so I reintroduced a little bit of blue down here. You know, put a little bit of light on this grass, got it a little more organized. Yeah, you know, getting to this stage of the painting, there are bits and bobs all over the place, little things that have to be done, little touches, and you have to look at it with a pretty critical eye to know what has to be done yet. You know, I have this trunk, I like the value of that, it's very subdued, and I may take a branch and cut off of there a little bit yet, or in this direction. And I might just indicate bits of stump using these colors elsewhere in the bush, stumps or branches or what have you. You know, this, obviously that's not painted yet, that needs to be toned down. This really needs to be toned down, part of it may disappear yet. And yeah, I'm going to put a few highlights here and there in the treetops. This branch is going. This branch is probably going. This one might get cut off, made a little bit shorter. And then I have to paint them as well, or yeah, you know, paint what's left kind of thing. And all over the place. This entire tree, not painted yet. That's probably going to be the last thing I paint. And then we have a bit of structure here, you know, a trunk here, which is going to be so subdued as to be not immediately noticeable. This is, you know, some junk, some leftover pile of weathered wood from a shed that used to be there. Something along those lines. I'll leave that to the imagination. And then, yeah, paint in this stump and then this trunk here, and it's coming. This is pretty dark too. I may need to put a little bit of light on there, just a touch. Well, it's a landscape painting, and it was mostly just nature up until this point. But something that I think engages viewers of paintings quite easily is the human element, and that's what I'm going to end up having here. A bit of fence, maybe, you know, maybe a rotted, decomposing shed, bit of roof showing. And I guarantee you somebody at some point when they're looking at the painting after it's finished and hanging somewhere will say, oh look, that looks like some debris from an old building. The human element. It also serves to break this very strong line that was going from these greenish colors into red. And that would actually solve the bush issue for the most part. And I think that you come up this trail and it'll steer you to the left. I'm not going to highlight these areas, or this debris here. I'm just going to paint it in. But it'll help to steer your eye towards this more distant ridge and, you know, over to the great beyond by the bush. So I may or may not have to do much with this. It's no longer looking so much like a pedestal in the center of the path because we've blocked this off a little bit. Interrupted this, what you would call this little horizon, field to bush. And we've steered, even though this is interesting, your eye will pause there and have a look at it, you'll still have this tendency to look off in this direction. If you don't, you will look at this, and that will help to balance this. Well, not you personally, but that's my thinking. I hope it works. This, yeah, I have to let that dry a little bit, and then I'm going to play. So in my imagination, when I'm out wandering through the bush, in my imagination, I come across a clearing, and at some point there's been some human occupation. And I come across what appears to be the roof of a collapsed shed in my imagination. So I decided to paint that roof more or less cobalt blue and yellow ochre. It's sort of the coolest green in the painting, I suppose. Highlighted that bush a little more. Alright, next time the painting will be done.